In the heart of the village of Oba, nestled between vast jungles and winding rivers, lived a powerful and wealthy millionaire named Chukwudi Okafor. He was the son of the most respected elder in the village and owned sprawling plantations, oil wells, and a vast network of businesses. His wealth was unchallenged, but there was one thing missing from his otherwise perfect life: a child to inherit it all. Chukwudi had been married to his beautiful wife Ngozi, who was as graceful as she was kind. Their love was the talk of Oba, a relationship that flourished amidst the traditional norms and wealth of the Igbo people. They longed for a child, a son who could carry their legacy and the family name. When Ngozi finally became pregnant, the couple's joy knew no bounds. They dreamt of a bright future for their child, a future of power, influence, and wealth. The entire village rejoiced with them, believing that the child would bring even more fortune to Oba, a beacon of prosperity for the village. However, fate had a different plan. Chukwudi's sister, Amaka, was known for her cunning ways. She was a woman driven by greed and envy. While Chukwudi basked in his success and the love of his wife, Amaka had been plagued by jealousy. She had always resented her brother's wealth and the respect he garnered from the village. But her envy turned into something more sinister when she learned of Ngozi's pregnancy. Amaka wanted everything that her brother had, and she knew that his newborn child would inherit it all. One dark night, Amaka devised a plan to steal the child. She had heard of a powerful ritual in the distant lands of the East, where children could be exchanged under the cover of darkness. Driven by wicked thoughts and fueled by greed, Amaka prepared to carry out her plan. The day Ngozi gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, named Chinonso, was the happiest day of their lives. The whole village gathered to witness the birth of the heir. But little did they know that this joy would soon turn to sorrow. Amaka, dressed in the shadows of the night, snuck into the house where Ngozi lay resting with her newborn. She had poisoned the village healer's drink, ensuring that no one would be able to stop her. As she entered the room, she saw the baby girl asleep in her mother's arms. With a cold smile, Amaka whispered to the infant, "This world is not for you." In one swift motion, she stole the baby from its mother's arms, replacing her with a cloth-wrapped doll that looked like a baby. Ngozi woke up in a panic, but it was too late. Amaka had vanished into the night, taking Chinonso with her, leaving Ngozi to wake up to an unimaginable nightmare. Amaka took Chinonso far away from Oba, to a remote village deep in the forest. There, she forced the baby girl to live a life of hardship. She raised Chinonso in the most deplorable conditions, keeping her isolated from the outside world. Amaka, driven by bitterness, forced the young girl to work as a servant in her own home, enduring abuse, hunger, and cruelty. Amaka made sure to erase any memory of her true family from Chinonso's mind, giving her no love, no affection. Chinonso grew up in agony, always questioning why her life was so different from the children she saw in the village. Her clothes were ragged, and her body was scarred from the hard labor Amaka imposed on her. But no matter how much she suffered, Chinonso never lost her inner strength. There was always a spark in her eyes, a glimmer of something greater. Back in Oba, Chukwudi and Ngozi were devastated by the loss of their beloved child. They scoured the village and surrounding lands, pleading with anyone who might have seen Amaka or their daughter. Days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, but there was no trace of Chinonso. The grief was overwhelming, and many whispered that it was a curse upon the Okafor family. Chukwudi, however, never gave up hope. His love for his daughter, his flesh and blood, drove him to search beyond the borders of Oba. He gathered a group of trusted men, including his most skilled tracker, Akena, and set out into the wilds. For years they searched the dense forest, visiting distant villages, following any lead they could find. But the trail was cold. Ngozi, heartbroken but determined, sought spiritual guidance. She visited the great Ogwefai, a revered village seer, who told her that the child was alive, but not for long. The spirits had whispered to her that the child was being kept from her, hidden away by a force of evil. The seer told her that her daughter would return when the time was right, but until then, she must wait and prepare. It was 5 long years before fate smiled upon the Okafors once again. Chinonso, now a young girl of 13, had grown into a resilient and strong-willed teenager. Though she had been raised in suffering, she had learned to endure and fight. She often dreamed of a family she had never known, of a life outside the cruel walls of Amaka's home. One day, after years of torment, Chinonso found herself standing at the edge of the forest, contemplating her escape. She had learned much about her past through the whispers of the village children who spoke of the rich Okafor family. Deep down, she knew who she truly was. That very day, as fate would have it, Chukwudi and his team arrived in the village. They had followed rumors of a girl who matched the description of their daughter. When Chukwudi saw Chinonso, his heart stopped. The girl was his daughter, there was no mistaking it. He ran to her, calling her name, Chinonso. "My daughter." Chinonso turned, startled by the sound of the name she had heard only in her dreams. Her eyes locked with his, and for the first time, she saw the face of the father she had never known. It was a moment frozen in time, a reunion that seemed impossible but was now reality. Amaka, furious at being discovered, attempted to flee, but Ikena and the others were quick to stop her. She fought back with all her might, desperate to keep her secret safe, but Chukwudi confronted her. "You took my daughter. You stole my future," he shouted. "How could you be this evil, after all I've done for you? It shall never be well with you." In a final act of defiance, Amaka tried to escape into the night, but the village men held her firm. She was brought back to Oba, where the elders, including Chukwudi's father, passed judgment on her for her wickedness. Chinonso returned to Oba with her family, welcomed back into the embrace of her parents. The village rejoiced, and the Okafor family's legacy was restored. Chinonso became a symbol of resilience and hope. But the darkness of the past remained, and though Amaka faced punishment, her actions could never be undone. The once peaceful village of Oba now knew that even the deepest betrayal could be overcome by love and strength. Chinonso had come home. She had survived the cruelest test of fate, and now, as the true heir of the Okafor dynasty, and reclaimed her rightful place. Under Chinonso's leadership, the Okafor legacy was restored, and the village of Oba flourished once again. The wealth that Chukwudi had built, coupled with the strength and wisdom that Chinonso brought to the table, ensured that the family's power remained unchallenged. The Okafors were no longer seen as mere symbols of wealth, but as a family that had overcome the greatest of trials and emerged stronger than ever before. And though the scars of the past would never fully disappear, Chinonso knew that she had found her place in the world. She had reclaimed her legacy, not through force or vengeance, but through love, resilience, and the strength to forgive. The once stolen heir of Oba had returned, not just to claim her inheritance, but to ensure that the darkness of betrayal would never again overshadow the light of hope.